I want to talk about single black mothers. My mother was a single black mother, and some will say she was not, but I feel she was a single black mother. My mother was married to my father, and they got divorced around the time that I was about 12 years old. My father was in my life up until he was murdered when I was 16. But I still feel that I was raised in a single black mother home. My mother, she was the worker. My mother was the worker. She was the provider. She was the provider of all aspects. And what I mean by that was, I remember times where my mother was in college and she changed her major a couple times. Sometimes my mother would work 3 jobs. I think that's the most my mother ever worked, was 3 jobs. She would clean homes for people who were unable to clean their homes, or else she would help people in need of medical help, whereas they were unable to do things for themselves still. Whereas she would go in and provide them with their medication, she would go in and basically take care of them. My mom, she stayed with my father for years and years and years and years, although he was unemployed. My mother said, as always, it was the best thing for her children. She wanted her children to have their fathers in the homes. She didn't want to be a single black mother, so she wanted my father to be in the home. In between certain times, my father was extremely abusive, whereas he would beat my mother simply because she had more education than him. He didn't want my mother going to school or anything. My father only had a 11th grade education. No, sorry, 10th grade education. My mother was far past him. Graduated from high school. Went to college right after graduating from high school. However, with my father never having a job and my mother always still being in school, he was the, I guess you would say, stay-at-home dad, but not really. Even when my mother would come home from work and from school, my mother would still have to cook dinner. My father kind of drank himself to death. Even though he was murdered, I still say he drank himself to death. So I still feel that he was the cause of his own murder, because if he wasn't drunk that particular night where he was killed, he would not have went out. He would have stayed in our home, but he decided to go out and go party and hang out and things like that. My mother, I love my mom to death. Don't get it twisted, I love my father as well, but I love my mother to death. My mother was the mother for my household, and as far as some of the shows that I watch, as far as like Leave It to Beaver or Parenthood or the Cosby shows where the dads had jobs, my father had never done that. So my mother was the only supplement for our financial needs. My father beat my mother to the point where she didn't want to go to college. And throughout all of the excessive abuse, she still wanted my father to be in our lives. Well, yeah, at that particular time, just my life. Didn't have a younger brother at that time. And she went through the abuse, she went through the beatings and everything, simply because, like I said, some women just want their child's fathers to still be in their lives, and they know, well, hey, if I kick you out, then there's a chance we might never see you again. My mother graduated from college. She has actually she has 2 bachelor's and 1 associate's degree. Through her even still going to school, we moved on to another block, and there were certain families that we kind of got clicked with. There were 3 other families of single mothers. Here's how that kind of went. The mothers, they would kind of switch schedules, whereas if my mother was at school, then I would go down to someone else's home. And I think at that time, yeah, I had a baby brother. We would both go down to another neighbor's home, and when my mother would get back home from school, the other single mother would go to her job, but she would have my mother get her children ready for bed for when, you know, she got home and it was time for the transition of the children to go to sleep. Same thing with the third mother. So they were kind of all connected. They kind of did everything that a mother and a father would do. They stayed on our asses as far as schoolwork. They stayed on our asses as far as stealing. They stayed on our asses as far as not going to jail, as far as not being parents when we were not ready to be parents. But I see so many stories out here that bash single mothers. From the image that's on my computer, it's the lady, I think her name is Angel Adams, and she has, I don't know how many children by different men. But that's the image of a single black woman in these days. But that's not the image of the single black women, single black mothers that I grew up with. See, for me, I've seen so many women do the job of a father and a mother. To the point whereas once my father had passed away, I decided to not just be my younger brother's sister, I decided to be his brother. I ran with him, played football with him, I played basketball with him. I've talked to him even to this day about the difference between a hoe and a woman. But single black moms are really dimmed in a very low light, whereas they're told that, you know what, well, it's your fault while you're a single black mom. You should have slept with someone different. Or you should pick your baby's father better. Which, to me, that kind of puts all the responsibility only on the mother. It puts the whole responsibility only on the mother when it takes 2 people to have sex and create a child. A person cannot go through self-gratification and get pregnant, basically. It takes a man. And I think that's something that's really lacking in our society. There's women who could have had abortions or could have dropped their children off at a welfare office and said, I don't want to see them again, or could have dropped them off at the police precinct and could have said, I don't want to see them again. But from the life that I've lived, I've never seen those type of women. I've seen the type of women whereas, okay, my child's or children's father does not want to be in their life. So what am I going to do? I'm going to make the best of what it is that I have. I'm going to raise my children to the best ability that I can. And I don't understand why single mothers are so much bashed. I've watched black men sit on YouTube and they say, well, the reason why your son is in jail because you slept with who you slept with, and you were single, and he didn't have a man in his life. However, the 3 women who I grew up with who were single mothers, who raised all of us, my mother had 2 children, another woman had 5 children, and another woman had 6 children. We were raised together. None of us have seen the light of jail. None of us. None of us have seen, as far as the boys go, or the men at this point, as far as the men go, they have not seen crack dealing stage. They saw other young black men go and deal crack, but they knew what was embedded in their mind, that my mother said this is something that I should not be involved in. But single mothers, single black mothers, are so much bashed. I know a female who's on welfare. Well, I don't think she's on welfare anymore. She was one of my closest friends growing up. She had a child by a guy who she had been liking for a while. I think she was about 18, 19 when she had the child. The father of the child went to the military, and he promised her prior to going to the military, I'm going to do everything for my child. But however, he didn't. He pretty much didn't do anything for the kid. And once he went to the military and started to collect money, he said the child wasn't his. However, he's no longer here with us due to the fact of once he came back from the military, he wanted to reach back into the pocket of being with his old friends, and he got murdered. But this young lady who has 2 children has gone to college. She was on the welfare when she went to college. And for her 2 girls, she wanted a better life for them. She now is a nurse. One of my best friends. She's a nurse now, and she's able to provide for both of her children, which are both from different men. The secondary father, he said that he didn't want pretty much anything to do with the child. But she didn't decide to abort the child. She said, I'm going to do the best that I can do for both of my children. And that's exactly what she did. But when you look on the internet and you see how single black mothers are bashed, you would think that all of them are like Angel Adams, the woman on the computer. You would think that all of them are sleeping around and looking for some government welfare. But no, that's only what the media puts in your mind. That's only what I still feel, statistics, I feel they can be altered, basically, to say anything or promote anything that's going on. But if you believe the same stats of the single mothers, and if you believe the same thing that the media promotes as far as single black mothers, then you need to also believe the same thing that the fathers of the single mothers don't want to be in their lives.